Well, that was it. So there's those, the third one was the situation now. So those are three very potential actionable things we can talk about. Packaged items that I think are very, very doable. But that's just my consolidating information that we talked about last week. So let's start again and have a bigger discussion about anything. It could be about anything we've talked about. You've already been to workshops on heritage and agritourism and adventure tourism and cycling and all of these things. It could be along those lines, or it could be anything else. So we'll turn the time over to you and to go ahead and start. And we're happy to jump in whenever. And anybody feel free to jump in. Hillary, Jill, whoever, if you have any input that you want, that you see, please don't fight. We didn't bring any bandages, but, okay. Anybody want to start with some observations or questions?
Well, I suppose one thing that I really want to work through is cleanliness tourism. You know?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Cleanliness tourism.
Oh, okay.
How to get everybody really bought into making sure that their shops are clean and
Visitor readiness.
visitor readiness, yeah. How do you really get that? How do you get people to agree and their cleanliness isn't yours? Because they're agreeing with you, but because their standards are different on cleanliness, how do you get them to understand what cleanliness really is?
Is this something you've observed in town?
Yeah,
And
sometimes.
there are other people have commented on?
Yes.
Do you guys have an example?
Maybe a shop or a building that isn't used. There's not very many downtown, but there are. You know, it's been really windy, so there's, you know, a lot of trash has been blown in at times, so it doesn't even mean, we do have a street cleaner, but sometimes in front of shops just don't look clean. This time of year, making sure, and I'm not talking about the city flower pots, but your own doorway. You know, there's sort of a magical thing when somebody enters the doorway. You know, if they're entering your house, if they're entering a certain place, there's a magical thing that happens with that. And for shop owners to understand the magicalness of walking through that doorway.
It's not always shop owners though, Si, I want to correct that because the active shop owners do a really good job. It's more the inactive sites.
Yeah, correct, yes, yeah, absolutely.
So the shop owners will go out and sweep their sidewalks.
Wash their windows and do all that.
So it's more on the town level, sort of the townscape in general.
Probably not 100% shopkeepers, so let's define shopkeepers versus people who rent retail space. I think it's a little bit different. Anybody who's inviting people in to look at products that I think across the board, it's really good. You may have some insurance companies, you may have some other services or things like that that don't as much, but I would ask Vivica what she thinks because she lives down there every day and sees it.
You're right. I think you're right.
So, you know, somebody who maybe doesn't have to.
But we did talk to
I'll
the
serve.
city.
I used to be a waiter.
We did talk to the city about some of the maintenance fleets. And they have been incredibly receptive. They were out burning the weeds in the brick.
Oh, so nice.
And they're painting because we took a thing to city council. And Camilla and I, please, spoke, and we had a list, and I have to tell you that it has been totally positive. We're still waiting on Stay Fit's parking lot, and I don't know, but hopefully that will be cleaned up. And that is an example of someone who is not maintaining, but at the same time, the city was not maintaining the sidewalks in that area either. And I see a real commitment. So I think maybe communication.
So, I mean, that can be part of a sort of internal marketing plan. There's the community aspect, but then there's also the business aspect too, of business awareness.
You know, just that awareness. I guess I had a talk with my staff the other day. One of the people that have worked there for a really long time came forward and said, I feel so bad. My yard looks horrible compared to everybody else in my cul-de-sac. Everybody's fixing it up. I have to do something. I said, good. I'm so glad you're going to do that. You know why? Because that's part of being a good community member, is to make sure and to try to get that out there in the community.
I think it would fit well into an internal marketing plan. Definitely. It's pride in community. We talked about this when we talked about heritage and about this idea of the solidarity that our community is worth in town, our community is worth spreading the news about.
I mean, and it's really like horrible to always use Vivica because she's such a wonderful example, but if everybody took care of buildings like Vivica's taking care of hers, you know, it would just be incredible downtown, you know. She makes sure that if anything's flaking or paint is off and around the sidewalk is clean, and she takes care of flowers, and, you know, she's got it so it's going on. So it's probably the most photographed building.
But I'm trying to find it. If anybody has a painter, this year we've got to do it again, and I can't find anybody locally. So if anybody, I know that's not part of our tourism,
But we're all connected to that, and goodness, yeah.
So Hillary, when you're talking about the components of what an internal marketing plan would be, you mentioned that part of it would be to community, so I assume that's residents. And then part could be to commercial property owners and businesses, because it would need to be a combination of both. Are there other components that we should discuss that would be part of an internal marketing plan?
Well, I'd like to jump in with an idea that,
Okay, great.
that was used in the town of Vail. I used to work for the Eagle County Chamber of Commerce up there, and we ran a quality assurance program, and it was for lodges. And so it was really robust, and every hotel property in the Vail Valley was a member of it, and it was essentially to ensure that the quality of experience for the guest was, you know, met their expectations. And so there was we had a lodging quality inspector that would go out and actually inspect all the different places. And then there were a series of checks.
They would inspect them for like cleanliness or knowledge of the area?
Yeah, so they would, there were different standards, so there was different levels that each property would get certified as. So there'd be a gold level, a platinum level, a silver level, whatever. And so tied to each one were just these different standards of expectation. So, you know, how old, I mean, it got so intricate, like how old the molding is in the room, and how old this is, or how dated this might be, or you could really take it, the model, to as detailed as you wanted. You know, is the front painted well? Is it swept? Are there flowers? Are there not flowers? But each business bought into it because they wanted that sort of stamp of, you know, we are.
And that stamp was at the community level, that wasn't statewide.
No, that was just the community level, so it was run by the Regional Chamber of Commerce. And you just had that, and so then the businesses could say, I'm either, you know, I'm a platinum level, LQA rating is what they called it for lodging quality assurance. And then that was something that helped the visitor then to provide those expectations, and like, okay, well, this is where I want to stay, this is where I want to go, you know, so that was provided by us. Just an example of a very kind of like concrete way to help, and all the businesses wanted to be a higher rating, and so then we did workshops and trainings on how you got to the next level. And so
do you think that the businesses you're referencing would buy into this, or would it be the same businesses you're saying are already taken care of? I think it's a great program. I'm just wondering if our community is there yet. If you're not buying in to sweep your doorway, do you care if you're a platinum LQA?
Yeah, and I think
I'm just saying,
like,
No, you're right.
figure out like what would incentivize the community members.
Something I think that's worth.
Peer
Because
pressure goes a long way.
And take a walk through Vail Valley, through the shops, through the gardens. It is so gorgeous. It just, you just think, wow.
And we gave awards, you know, for the best ratings. We have luncheons. You know, there's all kinds of sort of.
No, I think it's great. I'm just wondering, is it me and Vib
Yeah.
constantly battling each other for the best swept doorway? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
For sure, and it would have to fit for this community, but just as sort of a loose example of a model, like we had an inspector, we had standards for each level that got really detailed as to what you all would expect a clean shop to look like, or a clean, whatever that meant for your community.
Yeah, I think that's like an ultimate goal, right, that we should all be.
There was an example that I saw about a year and a half ago of a kind of an economic development local shop survey that was done. And I would have to go back in my notes and look at where it was, but essentially the town hired a consultant to come in and do a lot of secret shopping, do a lot of evaluation of downtown. And then the results that the town received were an aggregate of kind of the way that the downtown responded to the shoppers, but any shop owner that wanted to meet with the consultant, they could go over their confidential results individually. The city didn't receive results on which shops were better or which shops weren't. They got kind of an overall view of things that needed to be worked on, or what the experience was like for the secret shoppers. But then part of the consultant fee was the consultants would meet with anyone whose shop they had visited and give them the feedback. And then that would give the shopkeeper an opportunity to hear and listen to a third party, and it didn't become part of the public world. It was just a service that was provided.
Having that third party is good too, because it can sort of get rid of that internal animosity that could be if you know each other and if you're, so that.
Well, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. In one of our sessions a couple of weeks ago, I said something about one of the downtown hotels that I had a perception of that maybe didn't give service, and Vivica and Camilla immediately said, oh no, this is good. So I think having that third party then solves that kind of question of somebody from outside the community, could they find what they needed? Was it a good experience? All of those types
It
of
wasn't
things.
as good as we promoted it to be.
We
So,
did get feedback, yeah.
FYI,
Yeah.
but it's still the most affordable choice.
Right, it is, so, but I don't know, that might be another thing that could be part of the marketing plan. Part of an internal plan is that might be a good way to start, to know where to funnel the workshops. If we want to do workshops, is it merchandising? Is it, customer service? Is it?
You know, we have so few shops that maybe, and I'm not trying to naysay it,
Right,
but maybe our dollars are spent better with a broader education at first
agreed.
Of what, education?
of hospitality, and then to hire a consultant for secret shopping right now. I think that there might be some bigger, broader blanket that we could spend dollars on.
Well,
Just
I like the idea of doing internal marketing and education. Like, this is basically the stuff that individuals who aren't from here, who are traveling, expect to have available while they're
Exactly.
traveling, right?
Yeah.
Because that's not necessarily, like, the fact that our KFC doesn't have mac and cheese throws me off, right? Like, that is like, what is happening, right? But so just little stuff like that.
No
like
mac and
you
cheese,
need-
right?
Right, like you need celery and carrot sticks if you're running a restaurant. You have to have toilet paper, it needs to be ADA accessible, like all that sort of stuff. But then, also doing marketing of like bringing Denver down or Albuquerque up, you know, like not necessarily putting all of our eggs in one of those baskets, but kind of doing it simultaneously. Because I think one of the questions that has to be answered is, what does tourism do for you? Right? Why do you care? What is the buy-in? What do you benefit? Right? And it's not just like more dollars or more services. There has to be a far more meaningful answer to that question.
And getting residents
I have a
out.
question. So kind of what you were talking about, so some places have, they call it the Small Business Administration or something like that, and that's to help small businesses start out, and then they have programs to teach them what they need to know to succeed. Is that what we're kind of talking about?
No, not at all.
That would be the SBDC, and that's located out of Wilmington. That
No.
would be our version of an SBDC.
We're already doing
Well,
that.
the reason why I'm asking this is, an example I want to make is the commuter market on Main Street. I don't know if any of y'all are aware of what's going on with that. But I know when they, a co-op is what it was. And usually that's just a group of individuals in the community, well-meaning, want to start a store, usually no experience, run a business, and that's what's happened here. And so they're actually being thrown out this month. I don't know if y'all know this.
I'm
And,
texting on it right now.
Yeah, I have to go to a meeting this afternoon about that. And, so my question is, is there something in the community to help small businesses? So I know they got the rent assistant and all that, but I don't, that I know of, got any assistance in how to run the store and succeed. And I know initially the windows looked horrible. I'm one of the ones that was like, guys, you gotta do something. This is the window on Main Street. And finally they cleaned that up. And you know the point I'm making? So it's like, what is there to help? We want businesses, and like artists are supposed to be make an artist community, right? And so what is there to help them know how to run their little business so they can succeed? I guess.
Well, number one, they have to be open to input. And I believe they have lost some of their board members because they were not open to people saying, hey, I'll come help you, let's do X, Y, Z.
Right, I was on the board initially, and I quit going to the board meetings because it was so frustrating.
Well, I think that's, sometimes you can take a horse to the trough, but you can't make him drink. And that's, whether it's my tenants, all I can do is gently encourage them. Some make it, some fail. I cannot say to them, you have to do this. Just can't do it. Now, the SBA is available, but they are more accounting, paying your taxes, all of that sort of thing. They're not and if you have not walked in my boots, I had to fall down in order to stand back up. And if you don't have some street smarts, I had no street smarts, my husband did. That's where a business is successful. It doesn't just take a degree. It isn't just academia. There are some integral components that...
To your point, though, I think there is, in rural communities where you get a lot of people who can start a small business, but maybe with not a depth of knowledge of how to run a business, it is critical that we find ways to have them succeed because we need that diversity. So a lot of what's happening a lot in rural communities and successful rural development programs is they're creating a community support network around small entrepreneurs. So through a business incubator type formula with mentoring, where you can sit down and get some coaching from somebody like Vivica to help get them there. So I think some of those things are sort of in the works, like with the work that Andrew's doing and tying SBDC into a requirement to get some coaching to run the business. So, but it's definitely a key need, I think, especially for rural communities, helping small businesses.
Because there was another failed business, it was a little animal shop down on Commercial Street, and they weren't there for very long. So, we want businesses to come and stay, so people
Well, and
keep coming back.
there's a decision that needs to be made at the very outset. Are you the right person? Do you have what it takes to run a business and show up every day and keep your door open?
And are you
And
willing
those
to
hard
reach out to
questions
them?
need to
Or,
be
if you're not there yet, are you
So-
willing to learn, and we're offering you this help?
But
to teach you.
Tamita actually were not successful when they were at their other location. And so it's kind of like, if I'm not making it selling
Okay,
bales
the
of
other
hay at
location was
$5,
really a
Maybe
buying
not
of
to-
more than a
to take-
storefront, by the
Not to
way.
dominate too much time on this topic,
Yeah.
maybe we can park it as a topic of supporting, how do we support the development of small
What is the
businesses
current-
downtown?
Support available for small business development.
very
Yeah, that's
good.
the question.
We have the SBDC out of La Junta who will come here. They do small business loans, which are under market rate loans, and then they also do consulting services where they can bring anyone from the whole network of SBDCs, which is the whole state, to come down to your area to do free consulting for you. So that's anything from you're just trying to do your taxes, or trying to help you with your books, or trying to do an online marketing plan, or having someone who's in the farm to table business come down and talk to you about some of the rules and regulations behind farm to table. So they have all of those. Unfortunately, Trinidad hasn't been very active in accessing those. We've been trying to bring them back more recently, but like, no one's used the small business loan in the past 25 years from Trinidad. And even though we know that businesses.
So is it your responsibility to do the outreach to the businesses locally?
So I think a little bit of both. I think it's some of our responsibility, and I think it is some of their responsibility as well. So once they get that information, to actually actively pursue going to these people and getting that information because they are available. And then we have the rental assistance program, which is for our new or relocating businesses moving to the downtown corridor. And that's up to 18 months of rental assistance to help support their first 18 months and get them on their feet. And that has requirements of check-ins and
Is that a city program?
yeah, that's a city program.
That looks like the key to me, like, to make this work, is that
Yes.
there's the mentorship and all the services that could be built around that to help small businesses like the Doggy Place survive. So,
And so the nice thing about having it through the city is since we're giving you financial benefit, we're able to require things like you have to go and develop your business plan within the first 6 months with the Small Business Development Center. Because I don't have time to give 5 businesses 5 hours a week each. I just wouldn't have time to do that with everything else. But I have time to check in on them and make sure that they're going to use the resources that the Colorado pays a ton of money to have available.
So what's the outreach effort? So obviously it seems like there's a lot of support. What's the outreach to businesses to
Small.
utilize that?
Small unless they reach out to us, I would say. I think most of them don't know about the.
How does the city reach out to let businesses know that these resources are available?
So we're putting together, this is the first program in a series of programs that'll be part of the economic gardening suite. And Hillary, you're correct, we'll have money in next year's budget to actually put together a brochure on all of these things and market that.
But currently.
We are not marketing it currently, it's been word of mouth. What we did do though, however, is touch base with quite a few of the property owners in the downtown area, and they, being the owners of the buildings, have funneled 100% of the participation. So I would go as far to say, while we don't market it to the outside world, there's not a property owner with a retail space in the downtown that's not aware of the project. And they do take advantage of it.
Okay.
We're gonna add 2 new programs next year. Andrew's working on facade right now, and then there'll be we haven't named it yet.
Probably a mini grant program. It's gonna be for a one-time purchase, a larger one-time purchase for a business that whether they want to add a new sector to their business or whether they need to replace something like an HVAC system, some type of big one-time purchase.
That'll be our expansion program.
Okay.
And then facade will be building improvement exterior, which will go to visitor readiness, which can play into that. Rental assistance is for new businesses. We'll have maybe one other retention program, we just haven't put that together yet. All the attraction will be done outside the city through consultant services.
The rental assistance program, as far as I can see it, is a huge help. Because rather than taking a loan out and being in debt from the get-go, through those it takes, as you all know, everybody says 3 to 5, I'll say 5 to 7 years to get the business truly established. So the rental assistance program means, okay, I don't have to borrow money up front to, do my rent. And that's a huge assist.
So back to Sai's original question about visitor readiness, I think the 2 programs we're working on next year will play the facade program and then the one-time improvement, the one-time purchase, or the one-time expansion will help maybe with that. But Andrew said something that was very important. When the city begins to participate in these programs, it gives us an ability to work directly with property owners and shopkeepers and retail establishments on an even parameter where we have some expectations that they meet. Right now, into the private sector in the past, there hasn't been that relationship. In other words, an example is one of the things Andrew did when he reworked the program this year was make the SBDC relationship that Jeff said was so important. So I know we've kind of belabored this point. I think this is good planning we've been doing that'll pay off. toward visitor readiness. And the more relationships we have with businesses and the more investment we've made, the more we can help control or encourage or support the goal. But one of the things that you guys mentioned earlier, if it's okay to shift away from downtown investment, was the community aspect of an internal marketing plan. I think at one of our discussions, we talked a lot about, and Tim just sold his business downtown. Yours was a little bit different than a shop that people would come into with Colorado Floors and Blinds.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah, he's retired now. Yeah, so
That's why
it's
he's
to
here.
work. Yeah.
But it was a retail.
It was. Did a lot of, what we're talking about is trying to get residents more engaged in what goes on in businesses within the town, get more services utilized across the board by local residents and citizens. Would you say most of your business was from locals? 100%? So in services, I think we were seeing that, but we talked about the lack of maybe getting the community to shop in the downtown. So I think in some cases where there's a service like a Floors and Blinds place, that was, as you stated, predominantly local folks. So how then do we shift that to get that local investment, somebody willing to pay you rather than go to an outside, town? How do we get them to then invest and come downtown and shop rather than Amazon or Pueblo or
Sure.
different things like that?
And like one of the things with visitor readiness is, like, as a new person, I knew Colorado Floors and Blinds because of its location, its signage, it's clearly
Right.
marked, the name of it, I know what it's doing, right? And it's reliable hours.
Right.
It's open, so you can go and you can get Floors and Blinds, you know what I mean? So like
Right.
even those foundational things of being available, right? So it's not just, is it a local thing we can use, but is it something I can access? Is it reliably available? Because it's easier if you've been here for a long time to know how to get to Tim, right?
Right.
But if you don't know Tim, then you have to just go through Colorado Floors and Blinds, which is there and listed, and you know what I mean?
So to shift that to the galleries or the shops is they've made a commitment for last Fridays to be there, to be open. So that is a time when we know that all of those downtown merchants are going to participate in that event. So that would be an excellent place to start trying to bring community to the downtown to experience what's there. Because then somebody who's never really experienced that might come back and say, oh, I saw a great bracelet, or there was a scarf I thought I could get for a birthday present, or some bath salts, or some shoes or boots or different things. So
We definitely are open to help with that.
So what, just going along the same vein, what is the current outreach efforts to community members? How do you reach them? If there's something like this Friday event going on, is there a newsletter?
Facebook, Facebook's probably it.
So is there
Would you say
a town Facebook page?
posters?
There's a couple city Facebook pages, and then that gets aggregated to personal Facebook pages majorly, and that's how the word gets out. So you'll be posted on the 1 to 3 usually city or city board Facebook pages, and through that people will share those, and that will sort of how the network spreads.
Just saying, I've never seen or heard of the Facebook page, been here almost 2 years.
So the city's getting ready to interview for the Welcome Center Manager Event Planner position. And one of the first things that position will do is get a city calendar. The city's new website has an event calendar on that. Get that robustly up. And if this group chooses an internal marketing campaign and chooses some channels through which to market to residents, then we will immediately have a staff person to implement that. So this is an opportunity for us to craft maybe our first campaign for that event planner who will be working out of the Welcome Center to implement, if we can get detailed enough to know kind of what we're going to put out there, what channels we're going to use, and what we're going to market. If this
Someone
last Friday
mentioned the
event is
utility
one,
bills.
Utility bills were mentioned.
And I think that is just incredible because
Yeah,
we own our
that
own.
was a really good idea that came up the other day, is just putting a little leaflet in every, since the town has its own utilities,
6,000,
You have
I
the
went
freedom.
and checked.
just stick a little flyer in those envelopes.
5,800
Do
go
you
out.
use the local radio station?
We use PSAs.
So the tourism board has a buy with KCRT already in place that they pay for every month. And then the board has the ability to control the message, and they usually grant that to the Main Street group, which Cy and Andrew both sit on. So the Main Street group creating an ad for the radio, that's already paid for, and it's there, so that's a channel.
So
It can be used.
the Ridgeway Area Chamber of Commerce, they have a weekly newsletter. And that's everything from events to small business development opportunities to, you know, different restaurants having specials on Friday, music, whatever.
Open mic night, somebody
Is
said
that
this the other day, they were doing
Is it
that.
e-blast or is
No,
it?
it's email, so
Okay.
it's digital, but it's incredibly helpful to just easily ping people once a week with
Would be
opportunities.
something this
I wonder if
person
there's a way
put
to
together.
canvass the entire citizenry, so that Big Brother's watching, no, so that, to get everyone's email addresses somehow.
We don't have,
There's a way to get.
I don't think digital imprints is right for our community.
You don't think so?
No, not at all.
We're not young
We
enough.
only have 34% of our community hardwired into the internet. Now, most of our community has phones, but newsletters don't work very well on your mobile apps.
Right.
You probably shouldn't use reverse 911 for a party, huh?
Probably shouldn't use the call out for a party. Maybe, could be fun. But that's something inside the museum that we struggle with, is that online marketing, digital marketing is not necessarily.
Because that's gonna be a challenge regardless of what action items you decide to do.
So that's,
for your internal plans.
right, that's the thing I wanna mention is the sharing and all that sort of stuff. So I would say 40% of our community is represented by all of these things we're talking about, right? So like they're on the Facebook, they're sharing the Animas County, so if you're involved in that, you're getting it.
Another thing
If
you
you're
can
not,
do,
you're not, you know
At
what I
all,
mean?
yeah.
another thing you can do, and we've done it at Safeway just because it's in town and Walmart's out of town, so it sees so much interstate traffic but both organizations will work with the city if we want to have a flyer go into the grocery bag. So you go through the line and you get ready to check out and the flyer goes into the grocery
On
bag
top of the food. not
before
the
you
bottom.
leave. So that's another possibility that's
If
been
they're
done
willing to work
before.
with you,
I
yeah.
think that's huge. I think that's
Because
great.
if you're saying that this is an older population, yeah, paper is still important. So I think the utility bills is key, because we have seen that in other communities. And if you have something catchy, the way you insert it in the envelopes, that's the first thing they see before they even see the bill.
Where are we at on the kiosk?
It stays up to date, and if you park in the city parking lot, which not everybody parks in that city parking lot, the small city parking lot next to,
Thanks, Ty.
the kiosk is there, and it stays up to date, and
At
that's,
Miners Memorial?
no, at,
Animus and
next to the attorney's office.
Next to
across the
Rousseau's.
Penny's building.
Oh,
So
I
if you-
had no idea.
Yeah, so if you park in there, you'll see people sometimes standing around there, it's because they park there, so people don't really realize that they're cool to just look, but if you
What
stop
if-
there, they look.
I would say the challenge that has presented itself has been the same challenge we've always had with paper, is the person or the people putting on the event, we sometimes don't have contact with them. For example, the Creative District has this poetry out loud on Mother's Day weekend, on the 12th, and I just realized it's not on the city website yesterday. So there's not a channel, so when the council decided to hire this 2-year position and they're underwriting it with the marijuana funding of the event planner, it was to try and create a community person that's main job is to be a flow of information, so you would know who to take your poster to and what information. What will happen sometimes is they'll bring it to me, or they'll bring it to Cy at La Quinta, or they'll send it to Raven, or sometimes it won't come to the city at all, and then we didn't have a chalk art festival, for example, until I went into Buckets to have lunch one day and Jeff said, oh, you need to have this. So we need that central person. And I don't know what other communities do, but if that's not easy to identify, and it's not here easy to identify, I think there are a lot of things that happen that people just, afterwards, they'll go, wow, I wish I'd known that was going on.
Yeah, I think that's really good for that job description, to sort of be the liaison between all the organizations, all the businesses, the music, is the jazz festival.
The Trinidadian.
I mean, that's obviously a big event, but.
And they've
This
done
is
it for
smaller.
years, so.
How are they gonna know who to contact?
Oh, it's
Well,
blanketed.
Trinidad is different, because that's been so established.
He's just
that-
saying for any, he's just saying for
Well, I
any
mean,
event.
Oh,
I'm
for
saying,
anything.
let's say that the park decides to do a, coloring contest or whatever, or
Right.
a straight hunt or whatever.
Kirby decides to do
How,
something.
or Kirby, how do they know, who's that central consolidator? Who's that person?
Yeah, I will say I did
That's part of
not
that-
think
that's
the
part of that
city, did not
educational
think about the
program,
city.
yeah.
You're kinda on your own, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Raven was like, send it to me, I'll advertise, but I never had thought, like,
So this
That's
is,
not, I don't
this
think
is part
something
of
most
this,
municipalities
this is part of this community
Right.
plan, this is part of this, how will you spread the news to all stakeholders and businesses that, or individuals, whatever, that this event is going on, to the schools, to the churches, whatever, whoever it is that's organizing events, that they can contact Joanne at the visitor center, because she's the townsperson to list all this, they can put it in the leaflets, they can put it on the Facebook, et cetera.
Yeah.
So
And
that's a huge challenge, but actually, it's not unmanageable in a town this size compared to, say, Colorado Springs.
We tried to do it way back with our business owners group, and it got, unfortunately, to be, well, that's my domain, no, that's my domain. How dare you indicate I am not putting this on the, and we just, so if you have a new independent voice, I think it's wonderful.
And if the city supports that, it's a benefited position.
It's wonderful.
It will stay there, and the entire job is to coordinate information for events and to serve the traveling public through the visitor center.
May I back up and ask about the signage of the walking tour of the city? We talked about it earlier. Where are those pamphlets?
Yeah, we've ordered them for
Have
Cedar
you?
Street, and Ron has ordered the paper, and I believe they're in process.
Thank you.
I'll bring them to you.
Before,
Thank you.
we will have them out before the end of May, so
And
they'll be
those
out for
will
the
be at
season.
the visitor center too.
But they'll be available.
Thank
They'll be
you.
available.
You're right, it's the #1 pamphlet we use at the hotel.
Oh,
And there's-
that takes people through the entire city with these beautiful brass signs that tell.
Yeah, I've been reading some of those. So what, tell me about this leaflet you're talking about, or what it is.
Well, for a while, the tourism
Little budget for that.
board produced
Whatever's left.
Another
about
12
8
to
leaflets
15
that talked about different things in Trinidad, like Fisher's Peak and the history, the walking tour, which is the leaflet's referring to, and Picard Park and all the parks in town. But as we lay them out on the table, the #1 pamphlet that always disappeared was the walking tour. Because it gives some people something to do downtown. So you're here now, go next block and you will see, turn left and you will see, it gets moving downtown.
So what were you saying about when's it gonna be ready? What were you?
The brochures.
We need them
Sure,
printed.
we're out of
Oh,
it.
okay, so that's,
And that is also something that for children, that is cradle to coffin, literally, something for everyone.
that's a sign of a good historic town.
Tara, you asked earlier, what are the components of an internal marketing plan?
Right.
And really, this brainstorming session will dictate that.
Okay,
It's figuring out what the needs are, and then being able to come up with an actionable plan based on those needs.
okay.
And so far, I think we've heard visitor readiness is a big component of that, and within that, it's a lot of outreach to not only businesses, got community members as well, so working in on dialing in those outreach efforts, for not only for businesses to succeed, but also for community members to be aware of what the opportunities are, events, et cetera. What else do you guys see?
I just want to make a comment that I think you guys are hitting it on the nail on the head, because a vibrant community where its members are engaged in what it has reflects on tourists, reflects on
Yes.
outsiders.
Yes.
If visitors stop by and they feel downtown, they're gonna want to stay for some coffee and lunch and whatever.
Right.
So I think that this internal marketing plan is something that really is good. I mean, it's not necessarily external focus, but indirectly it's very external focus. So that if you can help, if you can continue to develop a vibrant downtown or a vibrant city in general, that's cohesive, solidarity, that's, is proud of what they have, even for the old retirees, the old miners who don't seem to care, I'm sure they do at some level. And what about when their grandkids come to town? Do
And
they rush right off to Colorado Springs, or why not
No,
spend a
they
day
stay
here?
there.
And I think it needs to be more than saying just come downtown. I think it needs to be detailed, like the new bike racks that are going in. Okay, so have you ridden your bike downtown? Here are all the locations. The dog park, so that you're walking your dog. Maybe we create a trail that goes from one park to another, walk your pet along this trail. We come up with something like that. So I think we need to be really specific for people, rather than just saying, come downtown. The trolley tours,
So you're developing
market
these
those to the
products
local.
so they can,
Right.
based on the assets that you have, you can, I agree. So you can, maybe one of the goals is to bring more people downtown.
Right.
The consumers of downtown. But then the objectives, how do we get to that, would be like this,
There's
connecting dog lovers.
dog lovers too. Like there's every neighborhood in Denver. I was at our planner's, Carrie McCool's, and she lives in Highlands. Over there on, gosh, the street starts with a T. And I've just watched that area develop. And the past 2 times I was in town, they were having a community bike ride, like right down the street. I mean, it was about dusk. I was getting ready to get in my car and head back to Trinidad, and there are just like 50 parents and kids riding their bikes through this little neighborhood that's kind of commercial, kind of residential, got a lot of shops and a lot of restaurants. That's just gonna make me crazy till I think of that street, Tennyson, in Highlands. So how do we start? Some of that's cultural, but like it makes me wanna be there. When she first opened the business there, all there was construction and almost no people. Now, we're working with her 3 years later and finishing this major project, and I'm usually there about once a month to check in. And now, it's so vibrant. I mean, it's frustrating because you have to park like blocks away. You can't park in front anymore, but it's so vibrant because so much of the neighborhood is out in the neighborhood.
Are there any like homeowners, so groups or like neighborhood groups at all?
That's, I think one of the troubles we do face is all of the code enforcement on any type of neighborhood thing is by the city, and that's a lot of man hours to manufacture.
They just not like the Tennyson Street, they've got a very active, both business community and homeowner.
Is that who's planning all these things?
Yeah, and because I live in the Baker District.
Okay.
And it's, our homeowners group is very robust. I mean, there's 150 people that show up, and everybody is very involved
And
with
they're
the
probably not all from
neighborhood.
that neighborhood.
Right,
They come from
no.
all the city.
Yeah, and that's the group that plans the bike rides and the community like day garage sales or.
Like community potlucks downtown or
Yeah.
something, ride your bike
Yeah, I
to
think
this.
that's kind of an interesting point, and it was sort of an interesting thing going through these days of work, is that tourism planning is like providing this very specific itinerary, like in the morning do this, and then in the afternoon do this, and that was kind of eye-opening for me. Like I hadn't really recognized that was the trend in tourism. And so then taking that message and applying it to internal marketing and saying, here's a specific day for the family.
Right,
Here's an event to get you
To
downtown.
not just say come downtown, but like
this is it.
this,
Even if they only do one of those
even if they do one
components,
of those things.
they need to be told what's available.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's really around the ease of it,
Yeah.
of the experience and the perception that it's just available and it's gonna be really easy and fun for people to go do. So that's what the itineraries are about, like, we're serving this up to you on a platter, all you have to do is just show up.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's really, because I've lived in some communities where they do that, and it's really easy, because you're at home, you're like, oh, that's going on, all I have to do is show up, there's gonna be a bike ride, and then there's gonna be
There's
six
food.
There's gonna be
No
6
problem.
bars afterwards that have discounted
It's like the
food and
Friday
discounted
night
drinks.
art walks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always gonna be great.
Or happy hours, local happy hours.
Motorcycle clubs, they do these things, they call them poker runs, where they have this long route and then they stop at designated locations. So we can do like a bicycle
There's
thing,
one this weekend.
where they go around and drive the bikes around town and stop at different businesses and get little, for families instead of.
Which reminds me, because of what you said,
Walking
so,
already.
an area where 8 motorcycles can be parked, because people have the wrong perception of some motorcycles, right? So I was up in Manitou a few weeks ago, and there were motorcycles up there, and they were like the high-end motorcycles. And so as I was sitting outside of a restaurant, they were coming in waiting, because they had to wait for a seat. And they were all, extremely educated, extremely well off. That's what they do every few weeks when the weather's out. They take their wife or their partner and go. And so downtown, we don't, where would we park 8 motorcycles? It just occurred to me when you were saying that, because that's what they do.
Well, I meant to do it like the bicycles, like she was saying, make a little bicycle route and, for families, to stop at the ice cream shop and the
Yeah,
pizza
that's a great
place.
idea too, right?
So let me ask you this, if we made a robust internal marketing plan and had these itineraries or had these things going on, come to the Trinidad History Museum, come to Kit Carson Park, all of these different things, we identify what's actually already in place. And then we market to our locals that, how and what does that campaign then shift to regional people like Walsenburg, Raton, and Pueblo? Or does it? Is it the exact same campaign that we're putting out regionally to La Junta and Raton and Walsenburg that we put to our residents? And is that then how you begin to build a really strong tourism base as you figure out what the quality of life things are and what the residents will do, and then you just bring visitors into that same experience?
Yes and no, and I think that what you're talking about is organic growth.
Right,
So that if the community itself becomes their own tourists, then that spreads to the region.
right.
And that spreads to the state. And it may take a decade to do that. But the idea is, I think it is a natural, so probably is the same approach.
Okay,
I think though, for an internal plan, backtrack just a little bit, I think we're talking about slightly 2 different things. We're talking about, there's sort of the grassroots, building pride, building solidarity with the community, building that local hospitality that hosts outsiders, as part of that visitor readiness thing. But then, we're also trying to get Trinidadians to be local tourists, which is part of that. They overlap a fair bit, but I think we're talking about slightly 2 different things, in the sense of spreading the word of it. You need to be, as a community member, you don't need to be. You should be proactive, you should support the local businesses, you should come to these events, you should spread the word to your cousins in Colorado Springs, you should be an ambassador for the city, and be hospitable and be knowledgeable about what there is, so that if somebody pulls you over at the side of the street and says, where can we have lunch, that you'll know that there's, you can visit a few places. So it's just about being aware. And I found, doing work all over the country, that there's just a lot of small towns and cities that just don't know. Because all they ever do is go outside. They think, well, let's go to a movie, but we're not gonna do it here, we're gonna go to, somewhere else. And so, I think they need to get more internally focused.
I think that
And that's
also,
part of this campaign, together with, as part of visitor readiness. But by the same token, and so if they appreciate their own community and they're tourists in their own community, and they bought into that, anyway, yeah.
And I think it's important that we do that, and Kirby made this point in our last meeting, and it's kind of resonated with me, I've thought a lot about it, is if through her channels as, you know, state asset and marketing the museum, she attracts a bus of 50 to 70 people that come to tour the museum, there's no place to go to lunch. Like, there's no place she can easily take all of them to lunch at the same place. So we have to grow organically to get to the point that we can serve that size of traveling public, that organized. Now, with plenty of notice, maybe we could figure something else to do. You know, maybe we could have,
Or something.
yeah, lunch boxes and tents and all those types of things. But and certainly we can work toward that. But we have some sustainable tourism assets we have to develop, parking and traffic issues, and
Like Si mentioned.
we need to
motorcycles.
grow, right, like Si said, 8
I think,
motorcycles.
and the reason why I said that about the poker run is, it occurred to me when you were saying that I'm in on the poker runs a lot, that's why I know there's one this weekend. So, because there's no place for the motorcycles to pull over and park downtown, they use hotels, gas stations for the poker run right around Trinity. They actually don't go downtown, because how are the motorcycles gonna park, go in, get their poker card and leave?
Why couldn't they park on the street though? Because you
There's
could.
not.
Yeah, well,
There's not.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
not.
When you're talking about, some of the poker runs.
Yeah, if you have 40,
50,
that's a little
yeah,
different,
right.
but with 8, I think you could easily park on the streets
No.
downtown.
There's
Within
not.
the walk-
They can park in our courtyard.
I mean, I've never had a problem parking downtown in my 7 months here within a couple blocks.
Or there's Safeway.
So, whatever the reason is, they must not feel it, because us
That's-
out on
that's
the
it.
highway,
They're not
You can
finding
argue
They're not
there's plenty of
finding
parking,
it.
but if the outsiders don't feel there is, it doesn't count.
yeah.
Well, and you know, when you've got your bike and is it the right kind of parking? Parallel parking makes bike owners sometimes really nervous.
Yeah.
Are you gonna back into my bike? You know, but they can tell them they can come down and park in the corner.
Anyway, at Manitou, I was there, they were having a poker run, and that's why so many of the people were going in and out right where I was at. And then, but when you were saying that, I realized, because I'm always asked, but it's because you pull in a hotel parking lot, pull in the front, go in, get your poker card, get back in, and of course, at some point, they're gonna wanna stop and have something to eat. But, you know, they must do that. Now that I saw the gas station was after me, and he's right on the highway, you know, it's, Main Street gas station is one of the poker stops too, so they're not actually coming in and parking and eating, I don't know where they're going. But it's up Highway 12, so.
Is there some creative solutions currently to deal with these larger groups? You know, if internally working together, can you offer 3 to 4 great options that are diverse, that, you know, the 15 people go to one place and 10 go to another?
I think we can start talking about that.
You know, something that brings the businesses together, so you're spreading that opportunity to multiple places.
I do know we had an issue one day that one of our cafes had agreed to serve a group, and when she found she didn't have the staffing, she closed.
Oh.
She didn't want.
And the group came and there was.
There was no place, and
Was that your group?
Was it?
Okay, it was awful, because I'm, you know, going, oh, and they said, no, it's closed. And, I mean, this is just,
Is this the
it
same
was
person?
not my tenant.
Yeah.
This is, okay, so this isn't the same person that told the governor they were closing at 4, they couldn't give him a cup of coffee.
No, but that's the same. That
didn't happen this.
But now, I did take the
Yeah.
governor's people.
You did.
And I walked
Saved that.
I walked them to the next place, and I talked to the governor and said, your people are,
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
but, no, it was not the same person, but
Okay.
it's,
But
It
yeah,
still
we have,
happens.
but
So I
yeah.
guess how do you prepare, I think this is a question, how do we prepare our business owners to be tourist ready and not ready from what they're used to? Because there's a big difference between what they're used to
So that was
operating
your-
and what, when you go to a tourist town, the hours that they operate or the, you know, that type of thing.
And that's always a challenge everywhere, because, you know, they've got to pay staff, they've got to pay electricity, they've got to pay water. And is it the bottom line, or should it, we always talk about the triple bottom line, which if you don't know what that means the economics of it, the social of it, and the environmental of it. So sometimes it's not just about money. Sometimes it's also what's for the good of the town, society, what's good for all of us. And then the environment is more ecological stuff, but often as business owners, we're so concerned about the income, and we have to be. That's why we do it. But is it, the few business people in here, and Si's a good example of this, that we've got to know the last few weeks, that are just huge advocates for the good of the town. That, I mean, you're willing to advocate for the other lodging establishments because you know that they need to succeed too. And so often we don't see that in tourist communities, that, no, it's just my business, I want all the business, and, you know, that sort of thing. And I've seen this in a lot of rural communities. Opening hours is a big issue. It's a real big issue. And there's no magical answer. But what it really boils down to is the business owner's willingness to support the bigger good. Even if it costs them a couple $100 more a month for electricity or whatever. And I think because you never know when that group of 10 cyclists is gonna stop by and there's no pizza available. Because the pizza's closed Mondays and Tuesdays. Well, that's weird. For most places, that's weird. And for most outsiders, they would see that as being weird. And so, you know, I don't know, is it just do people feel that it's too expensive to stay open 6 or 7 days a week?
They're
Is
the
it too
only ones
expensive to-
working.
That-
Yeah, that's,
You
yeah, part of
don't,
it.
you do not
Is it just not
have,
critical mass?
you do
Yeah,
not
that's-
have
that's what
enough
it is.
in this economy, and I'm gonna stick up for, I have employees, but most people cannot afford to, and so it's one person or a couple putting in
Everything they can, yeah.
all the hours. Or it's like Fran and her daughter down here at Monteleone's. Jeff and Sandy, they're closed one night day, it's Tuesdays.
So is this their need to take a break, is that? what-
Yeah, absolutely, well, and I think like,
Well, you have your weekends off,
Well,
should
I-
they not have one, should they not have one, I mean, this is where
Yeah.
we are talking academia versus reality.
Yeah, right.
I can talk academia all day long.
Yeah.
Been there, done that, got the 101. But let's be realistic about what we can expect our people to do.
Yeah.
I'm dreading going into 7 days a week. Because 7 days a
You
week,
shouldn't have to, that's the issue.
hello, who else is gonna do it?
Right, exactly.
Well, it's critical
So that's-
mass.
yeah,
That's what you said.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there a critical mass of customers to be able to justify?
At the right times, I think there could be, I mean, I get off work between 5 and 6. If I go downtown at 5:15, there's maybe an eighth of the businesses open, so when am I gonna do my shopping if it's not on the weekends? And that's my free time to go do things that are fun for me, so like, I can't go shopping at 6 o'clock.
well, and even, I mean, aside from all of those things, communication is key, right? So I was new, right, when I had this, I've only been here for 2 years. So I had that scenario and I learned from it. And so now I do have plans in place for when I'm inundated with 150 guests at one time, right? We have food trucks now, I have my connection with Cy, Emily's Cafe provides box lunches. I do believe that I could call Jemmy and warn her, I'm about to have a bunch of people, can we have a plan set up? I do believe I can call Fran and Kim, even on a Tuesday, the one day they're not working, and say I'm about to have 100 people come by. So there is workarounds, and I think that that's the thing, right? Is in small communities, you have to be creative, you have to use your resources, you have to work together.
That's true.
And I think that we have like that great momentum happening of collaboration. I think that we're in this really unique and exciting place where we do all want each other to succeed, where we do have this like, this rising tide is gonna raise all of our ships sort of feeling right now.
That's what we're sensing too.
And some of
Yeah.
this, I think some of this, back to the organic point, happens organically. So the real important thing for, if we decide to do an internal marketing campaign, I think, and I'm kind of asking you guys for feedback, is if we're going to do the internal marketing campaign, we need to choose assets like the Trinidad History Museum, the last Friday night where we know the merchants are gonna be there, the dog park, you know, these things that are active and that we know are there and they're open and they're usable, and we need to try and do the internal marketing campaign toward getting people involved in those things. Once again, rather than just saying, come downtown, if a resident gets something in their utility bill that says, come downtown, great shops this summer offering wonderful deals, and they get in their car and they come down Sunday afternoon at 3, and they find Vivica and the ice cream shop open, and everything else is closed, then we actually lost there rather than gained. So I think we have to be strategic.
I absolutely agree. I don't think we should try to pretend to do something we're not. Let's lean into what we got.
Lean into what we've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew, come down on a Friday night, we'd love to see you.
Friday night's my one night to go out and socialize with people.
Well,
Well, see, that's just it.
yeah.
No, and I do go out to the bars in downtown.
I mean, I'm not allowed to say this, but I give free beer, free wine, free appetizers, live music, and what more do you want
And I-
if you don't show?
I don't disagree with you, but it's the critical mass aspect of it.
But I'm just saying, you keep saying, we want you open at night, we want this, but I can't position into your clock.
Well, it's not you that I'm talking about. You're the bubble, not
You're the exception.
You're the exception.
Not on Friday nights, they're all open. And we have seen a total decline where my back room used to be filled. And people are kinda, the last 2 years, we've got no promotion, no anything to assist us to keep this moving.
Okay, so that's one of the problems that.
Now, I will stand on my soapbox, and it's not gonna do any good. But my musicians will still be there on Friday night when you and your friends want to socialize. And I'm not allowed to say that I have everybody's beer, but I do. You name which variety it is that you want, and it is stocked.
Who used to do your promotions?
For a while, it was the arts. Originally, we did
The
it with the
merchants.
chamber.
Then the Art and Culture Advisory
Then
Commission.
the art and culture, then it was Mount Carmel until he left.
Mount Carmel.
Then the arts and culture took it, then Main Street, I don't know who's doing it, but
Main
we,
Street never has officially taken it. The mayor talked to several people about them, but
I
that was
don't know.
never,
Well, so
yeah.
I have a question to pose that for you as tourism professionals. Is the answer a diversification of options or a diversification of audience?
There you go.
You know
That's
what I
an
mean?
excellent question.
Because I can run all sorts of events and I have the same 30 to 50 individuals show up
Mhm.
and I love them and they're a great support. Do I diversify my events or do I diversify my audience and then the other follows? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's great. Chicken and egg question.
I think you need to diversify your audience, because if you diversify your events and it's the same people,
Well, that's, I guess, the question. Does diversifying your events bring people in, or do you have to diversify your audience to diversify your events?
I agree with you, I think it's the audience, the market. Tim, let me back to you, because I wanted to say something a minute ago, and we have like about 12 minutes.
Well, if you allow me, I just traveled to Texas. I always think about Trinidad when I'm traveling because I think we have such a jewel here. And when I see other places, I'm always amazed, like, why in the heck aren't we a major destination with our beautiful downtown? And so I'm always analyzing that, and I haven't, the illustration I have to highlight that is 2 towns that we visited, one called Goliad and the other one Fredericksburg. And you may have heard of Fredericksburg, but I bet you haven't heard of Goliad. But Goliad is a cute little town, but everybody we saw was local that was shopping there. There were very few people shopping there. Fredericksburg, on the other hand, was packed full of people. Businesses are open. They're open 7 days a week. Some of them are open until 8 o'clock at night. And it addresses what we're talking about, that it's that critical mass. Their marketing, everybody we saw there, they were from someplace else. They're not, you don't see locals out shopping in these shops, because who needs to go to Dogology you know, and shop for your dog, you're on vacation, and so you go in those places. So our town is having to make that decision, and so I think talking about the marketing, for me, I don't think that we're spending money wisely by marketing to our locals. It's fine to tell them about events and put them in the utility bill, et cetera, let them know about what's happening. But they're not the ones that are gonna make our economy rise. It's the people from elsewhere who, like I was, just walking around with my wife and just spending money and shopping. So those are the people we want here. And so how do we do that? So, what is it that worked for them? They have really cool shops. They marketed themselves as this German heritage thing. You know, Willkommen everywhere, and come see our German town. Well, if we market ourselves as, of course, my bent is outdoor recreation. If we have these outdoor recreation, the arts, and we have that package, I think that we start to get those out-of-town people coming here. And then the locals are gonna say, wow, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. But I don't think, like you said, Kirby, you're gonna keep getting those same 30 to 50 people. And
That's the one question about that, though, is because of all the influx of new residents. And to some extent, it's like in the olden days where we used to have a newcomers club because it was so hard to connect, and so we would find each other and we had our little newcomers club.
Right.
So what do we do that? What's the new version? What's the 2.0 version of the newcomers club to help these new people integrate and find the downtown and find the networks and the people? Because I think you're probably seeing like the new faces show up to your art events, like the guys from Denver and different folks. So I agree with you mostly, but there is this other thing about the influx of new.
Well, it's a careful balance, right, because you have to be authentic, because that's what you want to market, right? So if we create a Disneyland Trinidad that's not obviously not what you're saying, but just to make it easier on all of us. If we say like, this is our packaged tourist spot, come enjoy, then the authenticity that we have that makes us such a gem, you know what I mean? So like, I think it's gotta be sort of a simultaneous, like, if we don't get great community buy-in, what makes us a cool gem will fall away. So it's gotta be sort of a simultaneous, we need that economy and that driving so that we can sustain and add services and access to our own lives as residents. But we also have to have that resident buy-in to keep what we're doing authentic.
I think you get that. You get that buy-in.
Yeah, and I agree 100% with Tim too on that. And so, because I didn't see you last week, Tim, we kind of discussed this internal marketing as a way of, that's why I meant a minute ago, there's two different things here. Not so much as locals being tourists, although that's important, but locals just buying into that this has a place of value outside, that outsiders will want to come. So that we need to be visitor ready.
Yes.
That's kind of what we're talking about by the internal plan. And that kind of spins off of the locals being tourists. But I think the core of the internal plan is to build the community up and say, we're a gem that outsiders need to appreciate.
Right.
A perfect example, if I can just,
Sure.
and I'm not trying to interrupt, but when our Friday nights were hopping, we would have tourists stop, and they would come in and say, oh my God, this is awesome. And they would come in the back room and have their beer or their wine and meet people. And it was like, wow.
See, and that's the magic, is when you're not like Fredericksburg and you always see your tourists, but when you come in and you actually meet the locals.
And I'm
To me,
not,
that's more powerful than just the town tourists.
This is a bit of a delicate balance.
I think there's also maybe something we can do is just really being aligned on a common vision of how to move forward, because those are two completely different visions, right? And making sure that everybody is aligned with that, has that commonality.
So let me get back to what you were saying though too about the outsiders. And that's the second component of what she's saying, is that, how do you want to brand yourselves? Okay. This is a big part of marketing. What is the brand of Trinidad? Okay? Somebody said the other day, the sex change capital of the world. I don't even know where that comes from. I mean, somebody mentioned it, I never heard that. I don't know what the origins of it is.
I don't think down we're at a point we can do that yet. I mean,
Well, and I agree, but
you
you
have to
play
know
on
who you are,
heritage.
right?
Because if you look at Fredericksburg, it's that German immigrant heritage.
It is.
And if you look at,
Santa Fe Trail.
and this place has a heritage that can be used, I'm not talking about a big branding, Karen.
Okay,
I'm talking about little by little branding.
okay, thank you. I
Where
just,
it's already, I hope we don't have grand visions of you're getting 500,000 tourists next year, no.
oh my
We're
God.
talking about incremental growth, okay? And organic growth through community efforts.
Unfettered growth.
Okay, so, but the idea that I'm thinking is that you've got, Tim mentioned the outdoor recreation, fantastic resources for that.
Yes,
But also, you've got the mining heritage, you've got this amazing heritage that surrounds, that somehow, can those be combined to create some images, some sort of a brand that, oh, if you go to Trinidad, you're going to go to the old mining town with a vibrant downtown that has so many recreational opportunities.
enjoy the outdoors
Yes.
amongst the Santa Fe
Somehow you
Trail.
can create an initial brand that can be tweaked later, that can be developed on as you become more successful. Because otherwise, sorry, if they're just driving by on 25, they'll see the Santa Fe Trail, they'll see the highway, they'll see the massacre site up there and stuff. But how do you put that all together to create, I'm gonna call it a brand. I agree with you, you're not there yet to have a global brand, but you could certainly have a regional brand to start. And how do you do that? And I'm not a branding expert, but I think that that's something to think about. What is unique? Remember that unique selling point. What is special about you?
What are we selling?
Yeah, what is it that you really want? What story do you want to tell?
So Tara, this is the opportunity to go a blueprint right now. We have one with OEDIT, it's branding your community. And it's all, it's outside, it includes tourism, but it's just about your town as a whole. And so that's, I think what the regional development folks do with those. It's doing exactly what Dallin was just saying, taking the entire community, all the different sectors and stakeholders and trying to figure out what is that brand.
When we did our logo development in the past year, the tagline that came with the logo was "Way Out West." There was another one, Raymond. What was the second one? Was that the?
There wasn't a second one.
There wasn't.
No.
I thought there was
I know there
two.
was
Jonathan talked.
for, something about Porky, like, steak Porky or something like that.
Yes. Okay. So.
But it didn't fall through, so.
So Way Out West is a kind of a geographic, kind of a throwback to the history. It came with the logos that we've got. The city invested in updating the logos, and that was just kind of part of what came out of that. So I think the blueprint for branding might be in our future. I just don't know that it's right now. I think we don't have a broad enough net to have the branding conversation yet. Probably the 2 times that I participated in community engagement here that got really controversial and angry, it was over branding, because right now it means so many different things to so many people, and we're not cohesive, I think, in exploring the community together to
And
talk
some
about
people
what that
will feel left
is.
out no matter what you do.
We've also got these amazing assets that are coming in development in the next years that aren't here now. So I would hesitate to go through a branding exercise until, that would be my hesitation. Obviously, if that's what everybody wants to do, we'll go down that road, we'll buy some flak jackets, we'll dig into branding. But I think that's coming.
The community is pretty fatigued with branding, because this branding thing has been here for 6 years, and we've been through hell and high water.
I mean, the last.
Two obvious things, it's a beautiful antique town, you know, the west part, the Wild West, that was the first thing that got me, my mouth just fell open when I first came downtown. It's like, oh my God, it's like a Wild West movie set. And then the outdoors, those are the 2 main things, that ain't gonna change.
Well, from a hotel's
We're
point,
becoming something different than we've always been.
from a hotel's point of view, what I'm seeing that people are using us for as a destination is outside recreation when they don't want to be in a crowded area, the young couples that are doing that. And the second thing that I see a really strong destination reason is people that truly want to slow down and take a couple days off and not be in the limelight of Denver. So young families with small children or older set of people that want to just walk around somewhere, don't want to spend a lot of money, just want to be able to relax for a few days. That's already the market of the destination that I am seeing in a hotel all the time. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to find out like some of our trails and do something from tourism point of view. Last night I was talking to a couple because I had to cook again. And they were talking to me about coming to Trinidad because they just wanted to go to the state park. They just wanted to see the new trails in town because they just wanted time for them and they didn't want a whole lot of people. And then, you know, we've had the snowbirds, but the snowbirds have started to add an extra day as a destination in Trinidad just so they can relax.
I do think that we can build on Way Out West.
A good
I
slogan
think-
might be Trinidad, a breath of fresh air, because that's the
Top
main
3%
thing
air
that
quality in the
is
US.
Air, man.
I do think-
Mountain air.
I do think we can build on Way Out West, and the reason is that if you're talking to someone in Denver about where Trinidad is itself, you know, but if you're talking to someone in Texas about where Colorado is, it's west. So I think, you know, Way Out West can be used for the Santa Fe Trail in our history. I think Way Out West can be used for Victorian architecture. I think it can certainly be used for outdoor rec. And I think it holds us for the next couple of years until we've developed our assets that we're getting ready to invest millions in. I think it works for us right now. And I guess I'll just say that so we don't have to go through branding.
I think it's working. Just so you know, the way that my brain worked, the Way Out West was like, as you're going to California or
Yeah.
to your actual destination,
You know, it means
this is the
something
way
to do-
west.
This is the
Well,
way
it
west.
depends how you say it too. I mean,
Or where
we're
the comment
changing
is.
completely the way you say it. You say the way out west.
Yeah, but you're not gonna get to say it. They're gonna be looking at it on
Well,
the
but you can
media.
also, you can put parentheses.
Because I do a lot of
But then
tourism
you
for the
can add
museum,
everything underneath.
and part of that is, I can't just sell the museum, right? No one's coming just for the museum. You've gotta sell at least
Trinidad.
4 hours of it
Yeah.
in an afternoon or a night or anything like that. I definitely push outdoor rec. That is what, if you're under 40 and you have the disposable income to travel, that's what you're doing.
Yep.
I have a question. The millions coming, what is that going into? Is that the artist community thing, or?
It's everything.
What's
It's
it doing
everything.
right now?
It's everything,
But I heard that the town's like reinventing itself as an artist community. Is this?
We put
Correct, or-
1.6 million into Space to Create. We're putting 2.8 million this year into projects. We've got plans to put many more millions into creating assets. So, I mean, that's not today's subject, but we're willing to create sustainable tourism type assets.
Well, I think in that you are making sure we've got sustainable water,
Yes,
sustainable sewer. There's
yes.
a lot of
Yeah.
projects that have to happen in order for us to welcome these people, because if our sewers are backing up and
Right.
our streets are full of
Yeah.
potholes.
I mean, just think of the difference of what has happened to commercial streets
Yes.
since the city of Trinidad's invested in the infrastructure and redoing after the infrastructure, the simple areas. When that commercial street was dug up, I would walk it in the morning to see where they were going, to see the foundations and to see that the piping was like clay pots.
I've saved some of the piping in front of ours, yeah.
And they repaired all that, and so those businesses are
We
much
put
more
10 million
sustainable
in.
because of, yeah.
And in 5 years, we
So
put
it's
10
That's
million
actually
into
when I first
projects.
came to town, was in, when Commercial Street was all torn up. So it's amazing how it's transformed.
Yeah, it's looking good out there.
Well, and I guess that's my answer to the branding thing, right? Because I feel like we should lean into outdoor rec. And while you're enjoying our outdoor rec, hit up our history, hit up our chain,
So maybe
our
the,
charming
the
streets.
fresh air, the outdoor recreation, that's what you're saying,
Relax.
the relaxation.
Quiet.
And
Slow
so,
down, catch your breath.
I don't know if you're ready for a nationwide brand
I
yet,
like slow down, get your breath,
but
it's
it's
still the
something to think
airflow
about.
again.
Let me just add this one little flavor,
That's great.
because I think it is
Underway
important,
already.
is the regional destination part. So the outdoor rec park fits in with the potential trail that goes from Raton to Trinidad. It fits in with Angel Fire as one of the top 10 mountain biking destinations in the nation by some recent thing.
And we're
So-
much prettier than Angel Fire.
So it's
Yeah.
the regional outdoor rec, like you can't go mountain biking when you're up in Denver in February somewhere, but you can come here. That kind of, like a year-round destination. So just that regional destination is something I want to make sure gets included in our discussion, is how we play with
And
that.
I do think though, Jeff, to your point though, we've got, and I hope we go through this exercise at some point today or in 2 weeks. We've got assets that we could market on Friday. And then we've got assets that are in development that we have that we really don't know how to explain or to send someone. And then we've got assets that are gonna be future, that are dreams, that are gonna happen. So to your point, and I know Parks and Rec is having this conversation and working on this, but let's say we advertise regionally about outdoor rec and I put my bike on the back of my car and I drive from Houston and I arrive. Where do I go to the Welcome Center, because that's the place I go. There's nothing there right now, and so it's incumbent upon us to move that from a development to an actual thing we can say, there's a trek just of the existing county roads, just a map of the existing county roads now where you could ride out to Bon Carbo, you could go up the Highway of Legends, you could go
Now,
to Ludlow and all of
We
those
do have Ride
things.
Across America, and we are not.
So I'd like to
promoting
identify,
that.
I'd like to identify if
The
we
wonder
have those
shops.
things already, like we're on the Colorado Bird Trail, that's something we have. So I think we need to identify what we have, what's on the ground that we could quickly develop something for.
That's part of that situation analysis
Okay.
we're talking about.
Because I just want to make sure the same,
Right, we
the
don't get ahead
same
of
thing
ourselves in
goes
some
to
ways. Yeah.
come to the downtown. You know, come to the region to enjoy outdoor rec. Let's make sure we're sending people somewhere when they get here.
So
Exactly.
as your point, how can we find out, like, I'd like to know about the bird trail, so we need a central place people can go find out what we're offering.
I think when we do the inventory that these guys are gonna walk us through, Beth, I think we'll hone in on that, what we have already. We just
And
need
it
to
may
put
be that the
something together
visitor center
for.
needs to be the clearinghouse for all that.
Yes. it
Yes.
has to be.
And, yeah. But let's take a brief break, I know we've been sitting here for a while, and let's take a 10 to 12 and
Oh, really?
or a
I
15-minute
really
break.
think that, and I haven't spoken.
14, 20.
Highway 12.